Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Fantastic, thanks for the response. There's too much of a gap for me to talk about building community, so I'm going to come forward, okay? So cameras, you may want to adjust accordingly. So I know it's a little bit unorthodox, but as you mostly can tell, how many of you again are Toastmasters? Show of hands, please. Toastmasters? Okay, so you know what was said of me. Former evaluation speech champion 2002. That makes me a toasted master. So, done. Okay, so you can't quite see all the background imagery, but just pretend there's very nice background imagery in the back. Okay. So how's everyone doing? Is everyone doing okay? Yummy. All fine. Yes. No. Great. Can you please turn to the person next to you and say, "I'm okay"? There's awfully quiet mushroom of Toastmasters. Okay, so I'm just going to start off by getting you guys to think about what communities are. Largely because of the background that I've got. I know a lot of you are in a club, but some of you do not necessarily need to be in a club to have an empowered community. Let me explain to you why. So all this stuff has been said of me already. If you can't quite see this at the back, I will resonate with Ash, where's Ashok? With his speech earlier on. He said something about the purpose of your life is to find your purpose, right? And Mark Twain said there are two most important times in your life. The first one is when you're born. The second one is when you find out why. And I think it's important for us to recognize that this is a journey that is not easy, okay? So can I just check with all of you, how many of you here are right-handed? Right-handed, show hands please. Fantastic. Who's left-handed? Okay, good. So how many of you brush your teeth? Think of when you brush your teeth this morning. I hope you brush your teeth. How many of you brushed your teeth using your right hand? Show of hands, please. Interesting. How many of you brush your teeth with your left hand? Okay, that's interesting, because I brush my teeth with a toothbrush. Yeah, I just wanted to check whether you guys are paying attention, alright? Anyway, so I wanted to start off with a very interesting story, and this is a really nice picture I took off from Google. It's a story of human evolution. If you just take a look at the people sitting around you, just take a look at their face, smile at them, take a look at their face, smile at them. And the first thing you realize is that these are unique individuals, right? Anyone exactly the same as you sitting nearby you? No, right? It cannot be. Even if you are twin, there are certain differences. And what I've come to discover is, how many of you, when you get an injury, for example, you get a cut or whatever, you bleed, right? How many of you bleed? Okay, what color is it?
Red.
Thank you very much. It's red. Why is it red?
Hemoglobin.
Thank you. Hemoglobin, right? Takala. Thank you for being here. Such a long time, man. And over the course of years, I've come to realize that for most of us, we don't even appreciate where we are. We're a small little dot, a blue dot in the midst of this amazing oasis known as the universe. The human evolutionary path took millions upon millions of years for either of us to even be present here. So when you talk about your children and having a tribe, when you talk about wanting to have a family, when you talk about, where did Sean disappear to? Yeah, there you are. When you talk about going and volunteer with prisoners, you are really turning this back into an amazing, blossoming place. It's a very vibrant place. Unfortunately, as what Rick said, there are a lot of people who are suffering from this thing called depression. How many of you have ever been depressed or sad or upset before in your life? You have, right? By the way, just to check, Rick, when you looked at Google Trends and all that, you know why 2017 was the spike of depression? It's when Donald Trump won the elections. I am not kidding you. I'm so not kidding you, right? So that's exactly coinciding with November 6, 2017, when everybody was upset with this entire thing. And I have friends who are United States citizens, and they were complaining like nobody's business. Some were fighting on social media. And so you can imagine what it takes for a tribe to go completely wrong. Right? When you have your arguments, when you have sadness and all that kind of stuff. But over here, I've got this amazing picture of the universe, the stars. The reason why you've got hemoglobin is not because of any wild experimentation from some alien race. It happens because there's iron in your blood, and iron can only be produced by the explosion of stars. Now, just think about that for a moment, and you come to realize that you are made of universal matter. Right? You belong to the universe, you belong to a very wonderful and benign galaxy. And sure enough, for most of you who don't realize how powerful that blast, that energy is required to create you, it's a supernova. In order for that dying star to transform, the fusion of all those elements to transform. So my friends, today I'm not going to talk about the Internet of Things, I'm going to talk about the Internet of People, the IOP, not the IoT. And the reason why this came about was something happened to me in 2015. How many of you are sitting next to friends or near friends? Oh, sorry for you. Someone is near you, right? Who's a friend. If not, just take out the Facebook and just appreciate all of them. And here's the trouble. For most of us, when we have friends, how many of you have friends whom you have not contacted for a really long time? Okay, why?
No time.
No time, right? You and I both have 24 hours a day. So does Donald Trump, so does Barack Obama, so does all the most important people in the world. And what I've discovered about that is if we don't begin to reach out, we will lose people. 2015, October, well, close to early November, I saw something strange on Facebook. There's a picture of a very lovely couple having their honeymoon shots. And I took a look at it and I said, wow, this is amazing. Why is this picture popping up? And I know this guy, he was my master's classmate. And then I read beneath that some Chinese words, and it was actually the Lian Huan Bao that indicated that Gordon Yeo, 33 years old, had just been murdered by his wife, 26. They have a 14-month baby. Gordon was a friend of mine, and he was a person who was the Excel go-to guy in our Masters of Psychology class. So introverted that he would rather volunteer to do all of the slides and say, Stuart, since you speak, you go and do the presentations. It was shocking for me, I couldn't sleep that night. It was one of those moments where I said, why didn't he tell us what problems he was going through? And the newspaper reports indicated that he was stabbed multiple times. Yeah? And he died of multiple stab wounds. When our class went for that wake, it was even more horrifying than that. When mother was there breaking down at every single table, telling all of the guests, first of all, hi, how are you? Would you like to take a seat? What drink would you like? Typical funeral, right? Underneath the void deck and HDB blocks. She would just break down completely. I've never seen such anguish in my life before, and that really hit me very hard. Now, I'm a psychologist. I've talked about transformation year in, year out, 500,000 people, and yet there was this one person I could not help. And I wish I could. I wish I could reach out to have reached out to Gordon, but I didn't know of his background. I didn't know of his issues. So that night, we learned the true story. He was nearly beheaded. His right cheek had been carved out. And he didn't die quietly. He died horribly. I called his boss's boss, right? Because I happened to know him I called the boss of the person who was responsible for this murder, the highest boss, so to speak. And I said, because I know them, I said, what happened here? And he said, I'm really sorry for your loss. I just don't know what went on. We're still investigating. I'm really sorry for your loss. I pray for your well-being too. So that was a wake-up call for me. Now, you have to remember, my friends, at the same time, life happens to you, right? Disappointments occur. You may have been passed up for promotion. You may have been in a car accident. Something may have happened to you. So between 2010 all the way through 2015, there were things that happened to me. Firstly, I started my business and I started losing quite a fair bit of money because of disappointing partnerships. That's the first thing. Lost quite a fair bit of money. Second thing was my dad was then diagnosed with cancer. Just a couple of years prior to 2015. In 2015, we discovered that he had moved from stage 3 to stage 4. Very unfortunate. And during that period of time, when everything was apparently going okay, multiple things coalesced, and it happened to a point where I was just wondering, there was this huge whirlwind that was taking place in my life, and I just didn't know how to really deal with it. I was dealing with a new relationship, and I started to stop everything. Time stood still for a moment, and I realized that in that moment of absolute quiet, I realized what was missing. The stars are formed, planets are formed through a process known as accretion. So things that have a higher level of gravity pull others with a lower level of gravity, then they mush together. And it keeps happening over and over and over again. Now, if the universe is something to teach us, it must be that as human beings, we too are products of accretion. Your stem cells convert themselves into bones, bone marrow, brain cells, all that kind of stuff from a singular cell. And when that transformation takes place, you become who you are. And you are uniquely you. Turn to the person next to you and say, you are uniquely you. Because if you don't think that you're uniquely you, you wouldn't be sitting here. And as sad as all of these things may have happened, as troublesome as it may have been, I started to figure out that because I'm at my lowest point at that point of time, I got to do something very drastically different. And that's when the idea of a community came up. Now, I know for some of us, when things are at your lowest, you don't think about creating new stuff. You get stuck, you get into this comfort zone. But that was the point of time where I said, I have to get out. I have to do something that is radically different from what I used to do. So between myself and my girlfriend, we started to plan some other things. Yeah. So over here, there's this interesting platform called Meetup. I know you can't see it, but it's known as the community of growth. I know a few of my community members actually popped in and popped out. Earlier on, we had I think Joel was here, Stuart was here, and there's a few others who actually came in and out during the whole of this day. So I'm quite gratified that we do have people who are interested to learn. We've got a very nice tribe over there, the WLJK tribe. I'm sure Lawrence will tell you more about it. And I was particularly enamored by the idea that I could impact people's lives for free. You know, I'm a professional trainer, right? I train corporations in leadership, in transformation, in corporate wellness, and so on. And the one thing that I realized was that while I'm earning all this money, there's no give back. So that's where I started everything. Oh, by the way, Larry, who's the organizing chair, is also a community member of the Community of Growth. So you're all welcome to come and join. Absolutely free of charge, for now. For now. You know why? Because we say it's free, right? But it's not free from responsibility. You've got to take on your own responsibility for your own life. And I'll show you exactly what I did to grow. Right now, we're 1,000 plus 600 because there's this other group called Meditating with Crystals. How many of you meditate, just out of curiosity? You meditate? How many of you don't meditate, you vegetate? Okay, great. Yeah, vegetate. Right. So when we talk about meditation and we talk about crystals, a lot of people say, oh, this new agey and stuff like that. Well, you know, some people come in with an open mind, some people don't. And as a result, the tribe is only as effective as those of you who believe in the value that is being provided to that tribe. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. This is about 600, I'm not see, there's about 1,051 people. Never been able to see all tribe members, but I think that's a pretty darn good accomplishment starting from zero. We started this in 2016, around about March and then July for both communities. And this is what we did. We literally ran in the evenings from 7 o'clock to 10:30, sometimes 11 o'clock, depends on how many questions Larry asked me. And we'll continue to go on and on and on. And this is my give back. My idea was crazy. Can I disrupt personal development so that people like Sean has got no bread and butter, right? Just completely destroy the personal growth and professional development industry. Of course, it takes a lot more than just that, right? So from that pain, something came out. It was a seed that was being planted. And the reason why it was being planted was because, to be honest, I was going through my own healing myself. It wasn't easy. It was a very lonely, dreadful journey. But then I started to find very interesting people. I know that Elvina and Dominic are around, but they're also community members. Marshall, in a sense, is kind of like a community member. I know you haven't showed up for these things because we never announced it to you, but you're free to come. You know, it's not really Toastmasters. It's like myself sharing some ideas, getting people to get into activities to learn, to grow, and to grow together. So I wanted to share what happened when I created this and how it can progress, especially for those of you who have a cause. Like Wiwing has got a cause. She wants to bring moms together and sort of like empower them too. If you do not have a tribe, my suggestion is to start the tribe regardless. Look for that purpose for that tribe. For me, it started out with, like I said, pain. But you see, when you have purpose, the purpose will drive your practices. Your practices will then give you the experiences needed so that you establish connectedness. You see, I'm not used to an audience like this, because for some of you, you're from a certain crowd of Toastmasters groups and so on. And I'm quite sure none of you have met everybody in this room, am I correct? Okay? So the trouble with an event like this is that you're distant, you're separated. And that's the thing we need to fight against. All this issue with separation, racism, ageism, all of these things have got to go, because it's just creating more and more fractures in a world that was not meant to do that. I mean, the universal tendency is accretion, bring everything together, set an orbit around the sun. We are warm, we find life, we evolve. But that's not how humanity has done it to ourselves. Take a look at the wars, take a look at just Myanmar, just north of us, right? All of the bloodshed that's taking place up there, and we ask ourselves the question, why are we not happy? Strange, right? So let's talk a little bit about these steps, so that hopefully you'll be able to also join or create a tribe of your own. And feel free to copy all this down if you like. You can give me credit for some of it, but feel free to swipe it straight away. So the Reverend Michael Beckwith said this: we are pushed by pain until we are pulled by vision. Pain first and then vision later. Does it sound familiar? You got pushed out of a comfort zone because you were desperate, right? You had to do something. You didn't know whether you could help Eva, and then you joined Spark, and then suddenly the clouds lifted, right? For some of you, it was a depressing moment, and then a friend came along, became part of the tribe, and lifted you out of that. So don't just try to envision. I know a lot of people are great visionaries, and my good friend Lawrence will talk about visioning. Don't just envision, start by doing first. When Eleanor, my girlfriend, and myself started this community, we had absolutely no idea what we were getting ourselves into. We started, and then it grew, and then it grew. People came and went, but then it continued to grow. And that's the amazing thing. We begin by doing so that we can have that vision, right? I started to seek my purpose on a more regular basis. Most of us define our purpose through fear, but what about freedom? What are your freedoms and where do you want to go? Next is the difference between separation and integration. For many of us, we get into relationships or connectedness, but then we fear the depth of that intimacy, and therefore we segregate, we place a very big aisle in between two separate entities. It could be your family, it could be your loved ones, it could very well be friends whom you have not got into contact with. Right? And as we continue to soul search and seek within ourselves, we ourselves are seeking to integrate. Who am I? What am I doing? Why did I do this instead of something else? That is a process of integration. But you'll always need to decide and write what you want, because whatever you decide today is going to be what you get. Right? So this is the starting point for defining your purpose. I can tell you this: no matter which motivational or inspirational guru you go to, they will tell you, define your purpose, find your mission, whatever that might be. And I can say for absolute fact, if you don't consistently focus and plan and decide and write your visions for your future, you'll start drifting away. And you and I know that astronomically, 1 degree of difference is going to lead us to completely different destinations. So that is dangerous. The next thing, once you've gotten all this purpose clear, then you know that in a community you need trust, right? So do me a favor, could you please turn to someone close to you, and it's going to be the same one. We're going to do this in 2 different steps. Turn to someone, and I'd like you to say to them, I believe you. Go ahead. Okay, you get the feeling? I believe you. How does it? How many of you feel that it feels good? Feels good? Okay, good. Now test this one out. Same person, turn to that person and say, I believe in you. Which one feels better, the first one or the second one? Second one. My friends, 2 letters make a tremendous difference to the impact that you create on humanity. 2 letters. Is there something or someone that you can believe in? That's the start of a tribe. It's not about, hey, let's make $1 million. Yeah, sure, that can be one tribe. But do you believe in someone enough so that that person gets the fuel? Like what Sean was so eloquently saying, how we get that fuel to move forward. Sometimes it comes from other people. So that's safety, authenticity. Those of you guys who are from Toastmasters clubs, I think it's time to disrupt Toastmasters. Right? Because it's been around for way too long, over 150 years, you know what I'm saying? it's got to be disrupted. You got to choose a different way. When I was in NUS, we built a tribe based on just one thing. The last one over here, fun. We said anyone who comes and joins, we must have fun. And fun we did have. We never hit any of the district targets, right? So it's true. Who cares? If you and I are having fun, do we fulfill our meaning and purpose? Yes or no? Yeah, right? If you're not having fun and you're constantly having to struggle against one person's opinion versus another person's opinion, then what's the point of that? This is not toast mastering at its best. Toast mastering at its best was standing up and celebrating someone. Right? You stood up and you said, I want to give a toast to so-and-so. Right? And that is about leadership. It is the essence of what it means to have a community. But those of us who are not in a community of Toastmasters, then think about other communities. There's so many of them around. Which one do you want to support? Yeah? So, I don't have all the time to go through all of this, but I'll just leave you with Carl Jung's statement here. He says this: the most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed. Today on Facebook, I saw a friend whose in-law's house was burned down by an accident, right? So I sent a message, I said, my goodness, at least your mother-in-law, father-in-law are okay. And she responded with one of those heart likes on Facebook. And I knew that she was okay. Right? If she had responded like, I'm depressed, I'm going to kill myself, then I would have probably not showed up, let Lawrence take the rest of the stage and flown over to KL because they're important to me. Right? So that's about practices. What kind of practices do you want to have based on your purpose? Next. I just came back from Bali. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of this group called Mind Valley. How many of you have heard of Mind Valley? Show of hands? Okay, fantastic. So Vishen Lakhiani is a person who has been my friend since 2009. And it was his parents' house that got burned down. Right? So I decided to put up pictures of this. Take a look at this tribe. What are they doing? Look at the fireworks and all that kind of stuff. Do you guys have this type of event in Toastmasters? No? Why not? Why not have a fireworks? Why not have a campfire? Why not go to the botanic gardens and speak like you've never spoken before? This is typically what happens when your favorite soccer team actually wins, right? But this is actually people on stage, celebrating each other on stage. And I really respect Vision for actually having done this. Take a look at this huge crowd there, right? And it's not just about speeches, it's about the connectedness. And that's why I want you guys to understand that crafting experiences within your community is important. So for example, how many of you do this? I used to do this. By the way, Toastmasters, Thompson CC was where I was when Brilliant Advanced Toastmasters Club was, right? So I was taking a walk around, just going down memory lane, and I realized that everything that used to be here is gone, right? With the exception of some Toastmasters like Ernest and Ernest has been very, very supportive of Toastmasters. So when you are crafting experiences, what kind of experiences do you have? How many of you, after Toastmasters events, you still go out and have your so-called suppers? How many of you do that? Right? Oh, not that many. How many of you go out for supper with your colleagues? How many of you don't have colleagues? That's fine. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Don't rush, right? So sometimes, so you know what's happening? Sometimes you're so tired, you cut a line and you say, no, I need time for myself. That's great. But remember that sometimes the way by which you get out of that funk is to connect with someone and have that depth of relationship to a point where, hey, that makes sense. I really appreciate that. When Sean was speaking just now, I was just reflecting inside my head, what were some of the things that give me fuel? What's my purpose in life? You know, those kinds of things. So different people will give you different ideas as to how to get out of the funk. So why do we avoid the crowd? I was actually invited to deliver a keynote by a group that is a networking group for introverts. How many of you have heard of it? Introverts networking group. How many of you have heard of it? No? It was a very quiet group. But we had very deep conversations. Yeah? So invent shared experiences. When I was in officer cadet school, they made us go through terrible, terrible shared experiences that even up to today we remember, but we laugh about it now. Right? Climbing up that stupid hill with all that backpack and all that stuff. No, that's not what I'm saying Toastmasters should do, alright? But have a party or some celebration, something unforgettable that your team goes through, that 10 years from now you look back and go like, wow, that was was a team that I would support and I would rally around and trust them with my life. So over here, a guy by the name of Thomas Berry, he says this: diversity is the magic. It is the first manifestation, the first beginning of the differentiation of a thing and of simple identity. The greater the diversity, the greater the perfection. So the people who are around you may be different than you. They may be weird. They may be aggravating. How many of you have met such Toastmasters? The aggravating ones, maybe. For those of you who do know some of such people, that's the point. They are supposed to aggravate you. They're supposed to shake you up. Open up your world to understand that there is a different perspective than what you have. That's how you grow, right? Connectedness. Once you're done with that, the first step is to be nice. So if you look at the acronyms NICE, it means as you connect and you love and understand another person's company, you say, what do they need? What are they interested in? What concerns do they have? And what are their expectations? The moment you know this, the depth of connectedness that you have, it will skyrocket, right? I know what you need, so what do you need in your life? You need a life? Oh my gosh. Okay, I can help with that. I'm a trauma therapist. If I know what your concerns are, I can reach out to you. And just as people like Larry, Stuart have reached out before, I lend myself in service of that. By the way, my name is Stuart, right? What goes on inside your mind when you hear the word Stuart? How many of you think the mouse? The mouse. Okay, good. How many of you think the minion? The minion. Yeah, the minion. So you're a little bit more up to date. Thank you very much. To me, it is the word steward. Yes. Right? The person who serves. Yes. And Takala, I think we must have met like what, 13, 14 years ago. Right? And for me, my mission is to serve. That's it. I found my purpose in life, serving whatever it is, not your food, sorry, but serving humanity in different ways. So that we look at building people up and not breaking. Whenever there's an argument, to mediate rather than to separate. Right? Every single step of the way is about bringing people together, the universal alliance of the stars, and bringing people into accretion. So that when something is meaningful, when we evolve and we bring beautiful life to this community or this tribe, whatever that might be, it is made up of the diversity of elements. I won't go through too much of this. I formed up a model known as leadership conversations, but I believe it will be helpful for you guys to be able to think of conversations very, very differently from now onwards. The first one is known as building rapport. That's what we all do very well in Toastmasters, but it remains superficial. Setting targets and expectations. Don't just let the district, I know if the district governor is here, I'm sorry. But if you set your own targets and your own expectations for your own tribe, you are going to get completely different results because everyone is going to believe in you and believe in it, right? Together, you go better, you go faster, you go further. Managing performance so that the targets and expectations go through a proper feedback loop. How many of you have made mistakes in your life before? Great. How many of you have recently reflected and changed a mistake over the last 24 hours? Anyone? Great. So some have. But the speed of your reflection, your speed of your feedback is what's going to get you to change and improve. Most of us shove it in the cupboard, right? In the skeletons in the closet. So let's not do that. Look for development. I think Toastmasters is great for that. Look for mentors and coaches. But this is a different conversation than rapport building. This gets into some of the skeletons in the closet. Influencing. The problem with most of us is we try to influence without forming these first four bases of conversation. Right? If I'm going to influence, I must have understood how this cycle is. It's not easy. You need empathy, you need compassion. Next, healing, and that's what I do best. Right? Sit down with me, we go through a process of alignment, change, healing. So as time goes by, you come to realize a few things. I'm not going to go through this, but you see gems up there, right? How many of you like pretty gems? Okay, interesting. So I happen to also be a gemologist. I look at precious and semi-precious stones. And looking at precious and semi-precious stones, I know for a fact that not all of you are diamonds. You're not diamonds in the rough. Some of you are emeralds. I see a sapphire over here. I see a ruby over here. Different people will have different ways of showing up in the world. When you need to be able to hide, he's going to show up fantastic in the world, right? So for most of a little bit OCD, but it's okay. So when you think about the rest of your life, do you see your gem in your rough? The combination of all the experiences are the minerals that form up your life experience. But the master cutter, connecting. For those people who are here, if you have had a chance to meet someone different than you, someone you've never met before, just go out there and meet them, greet them, welcome them, their ideas, no matter how weird they are, with open arms. Because that is how we move away from the Internet of Things. Because you and I are not things, but the interconnectedness of people. That's how we build empowered communities. You do what you can, I support you. I do what I can, you support me, and we learn and grow together through our failures, our mistakes, and enjoy it in spite of that pressure. So my friends, one of the things that I usually like doing is a quick experiment. Would you be able to indulge me in this experiment?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I need all of you to do is this. Can I get all of you to close up any space that's around you? Everyone, please stand up. Please stand up. I'd like you to close up the space around you, and I need to make sure that everybody is holding hands. Okay? And you all have to be connected, right? Everyone has to be connected. Yeah? Yeah. So connect this row, this whole row, just connect. Yes. And then that row, connect all the way through. Yeah? If there's any gap, just grab a person's hand. Just grab a person's hand.
Where?
You must be connected to someone. If you've got one hand free, man, you need to connect to somebody. Sir, you are missing a connecting point. Yeah, everybody needs to connect. You know what this means, right? It's eventually going to be a very, very big circle. Yeah, so if you've got one hand free, you have to go and find the other connecting point. Okay? Yes. Okay. Is anyone alone here? Stuart? Okay, so, yes, fantastic, wonderful, excellent, brilliant. Okay. Lovely. So, are we all connected? Are we all connected? Are we all connected? Yes. Okay, so let's take a look and see whether we truly are connected. Could you split this? Yeah, your finger comes here. Your finger comes here. Your finger comes here. Touch it. Okay. Could the both of you break and reconnect, please? Could the both of you break and reconnect? Okay. So somebody is starting to play, right? You're starting to disconnect and you're starting to reconnect. See? Now, my friends, you can put on your hands now. One of the reasons why I get people to do this experiment is very simple. You pass energy through everybody that you come into contact with. And the problem with us is that we're sometimes connected to horrible energy. How many of you understand what I'm talking about? Right? Can't we create a place where we thrive? How about that instead? So that we bring energy and then we multiply that energy by leaps and bounds, by huge amounts. That whenever you go out and you touch other people, they get electrified. So my friends, can you please turn to the person next to you and say, together we electrify others, right? Together we electrify others. Thank you so much. So my friends, stay in contact. I wish you all the very best. If you've got any questions for me, feel free to contact me. I look forward to serving all of you once again.